And the first one is, or ask this. It says, given that the word Christian was originally conceived by opponents to the church in Antioch, are we really given license to accurately call someone a Christian or non-Christian when the criteria was created by those enemies from Antioch, and since it was originally meant to be a derogatory name? Okay, so great question. Again, we know that in the book of Acts, Christians were first called Christians at Antioch, and as you have correctly stated, it primarily was a derogatory term. I mean, the term itself comes from comes from a Greek word, Christos. So the idea is that to call someone a Christian is to say they are little Christ. They are little Christ. In other words, they are people who follow Christ and strive to live like Christ. And so, yes, of course, people would say, well, look at those little Christ ones. But in reality, it's actually a pretty good name. I mean, I don't know about you, but I'd like to be known as not that I'm Christ, but I'm a little Christ in the sense that I'm following Christ and I'm striving to live my life like Christ. And so I don't think there's anything wrong with the term. As a matter of fact, it is a biblical term. And let me show you what I'm talking about. 1 Peter and chapter 4. 1 Peter chapter 4. Listen to this. 1 Peter 4 verse 16. Yet if anyone suffers as a Christian, let him not be ashamed, but let him glorify God in that name. So it's actually biblical to be called a Christian. Peter himself in 1 Peter 4:16 refers to the saints as Christians. And he actually says, glorify God in that name. And so, it's biblical to call someone a Christian or a non-Christian in the sense that Peter actually adopted that term and actually tells the church to glorify God in that name. In that name, what? What name? The Christian name. Again, if anyone suffers as a Christian, let him not be ashamed, but let him glorify God in that name. Okay? So it's biblical to call ourselves Christians and to refer to others as non-Christians. And so I hope that is helpful. Again, that reference is 1 Peter 4:16.